you all to know that America today is on bended knee as we mourn the loss of thousands of our citizens.
Let us renew the true spirit of that day. Not the human capacity for evil, but the human capacity for good. Not the desire to destroy, but the impulse to save and to serve and to build.
Welcome to Freshman Day of Service, George Washington University, and your beginning to service in the nation's capital. I look forward to working with you today and throughout your service career here in Washington, D.C.
GW Class of 2015, this is going to be a great day of service. We're serving in 14 schools, beautifying those schools. We're serving with the Armed Forces Retirement Community. We're serving with Vincent Hall, and we're serving at the Anacostia Watershed Society. It's going to be a great day to start your lifetime of service at GW.
President Obama launched what we're calling the President's Interfaith and Community Service Challenge as a way to involve young people on college campuses and work with the community.
The value and the beauty of interfaith dialogue and service is that they remind us about some fundamental truths of the GW and human families.
Welcome students to George Washington University. You could not have selected a better university, because here at GW you have numerous opportunities for community service.
It's so impressive and inspiring to see you come together as one from different faith backgrounds, different cultures, and work together in generously serving.
You come from different places, different cultures, different beliefs, and today you are working together for the betterment of this community.
We're all here from different backgrounds, which is amazing, and from all those backgrounds coming together, it's really about togetherness, and that I think is what makes the day very special.
Service really does matter, so we're counting on you.
Class of 2015.
2015, make your mark. Continue the tradition. Make a difference. If you want to get involved in service, check out the Center for Civic Engagement and Public Service.
2015.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for serving.
People of different faiths can come together for a common goal.
2015, let's go serve.
Let's go serve.
Let's go serve.
2015, let's go serve.
Ladies and gentlemen of the class at George Washington University of 2015, would you please welcome your student body president, John Richardson.
How's everybody doing today? Good. It's with great pleasure I join you today as the MC for the third annual Freshman Day of Service in honor of the National Day of Service and Remembrance. Joining President Knapp, Provost Lerman, and me on stage are our special guest speakers, Henderson, Chancellor of DC Public Schools, Stan Soloway from the Corporation for National and Community Service, and finally, Eboo Patel, founder and president of the Interfaith Youth Core. Class of 2015, as some of the newest members of the GW community, you join a university that is in and of DC. Not only do our faculty, staff, and students live and work here like yourselves, but many are dedicated to enhancing and improving the quality of life in our city. One of our closest partnerships is with the DC public school system. Through the Center for Civic Engagement and Public Service, the students have an opportunity to serve throughout the year at schools across the district. Additionally, GW annually awards full four-year scholarships to high school seniors from DC schools. Together, we are truly brightening the future of schools and building community in the district. It is now my pleasure to welcome back to the university Henderson, DC Chancellor of Public Schools.
Good afternoon, class of 2015. Oh, come on. Good afternoon, class of 2015. All right. You all look beautiful, ready to serve, which is exciting to me. I just want to say thank you for having me here today. It's an exciting day. I remember 9/11 vividly as I was sitting in the headquarters of DC Public Schools when lots of things started to happen. And the building shook, and we ended up leaving the building, walking through the streets of DC, which was paralyzed, frankly. Cars weren't moving, people were walking around, cell phones weren't working, and literally we didn't know where we were going or what we were going to do. But I watched on that day people helping each other. I watched complete strangers who would walk across the street and help people who didn't know where they were going. I watched people pick up people who they had never seen before and give them rides to wherever they were going. I watched the few people who did have cell phone reception handing their cell phones to complete strangers to help them get to whatever it was they were trying to get to. And that's one of the most important things that I remember about 9/11. While it's definitely a day of loss and tragedy for us, as close as home as DCPS, where we lost 3 students and 3 teachers who were on American Airlines Flight 77 going to a National Geographic expo in California. It was also a day of service. It was a day where I watched Americans reach out to each other and connect with each other and remember that we are inextricably bound. And I find it so fitting that at George Washington University, which has been a tremendous partner to DC Public Schools over the years, that you would begin your career here by serving. It speaks to the values of this organization. It speaks to the commitment that this university has made to the city in which it's situated. And there's no other university that does for DCPS what GW does. And so I want to say thank you to President Knapp, and to the entire GW community for the work that you've done with our schools. I have the best job in the city, the absolute best job in the city. I get to ensure that our students have the greatest schools, staffed by the greatest people, making great community connections. And I'm excited that on today, your sort of first day at school, you get to come out to our schools and you get to paint and plant and brighten and beautify so that our children understand that we are connected. They're watching you. They're seeing that you are dedicating your time, free time, to the beautification of our schools. And so when you go today, make note, our children are as bright and as smart and as talented as you are. They just need encouragement. They need to be reminded of that. And I'm challenging you that this is not your only day of service. This is your first day of service with DC Public Schools. Is that all right? All right. So as you go out to J.C. Knoll and Ballou and M.C. Terrell and Stanton and Stoddard, I see you back there, Stoddard, and to McFarland and to Moten at Wilkinson and to any place else that I haven't seen, go with the spirit of service. Go with the excitement and the energy that you have. Our children deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Henderson. George Washington University is very proud of our partnership with the Corporation for National and Community Service, the federal agency that engages more than 5 million Americans every year in service to this country. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a member of the corporation's board, Stan Soloway.
What an incredible sight. All those blue shirts out there, it gives me the shivers to see all of you first day of school, as Dr. Henderson said, getting ready to do so much good for our community. I want to thank you for having me here today, Provost Lerman, President Knapp, John, everybody involved in this great day of service. I do have to take a moment of privilege, if I can, to thank Dr. Henderson for what she's doing to transform the DC public schools. And I say that as the proud parent of 3 graduates of the DC Public Schools, one of whom went to school here on the GW campus at the School Without Walls, which hopefully many of you will become familiar with, and thanks to the inspiration of her teachers at DCPS, has just graduated with a degree in education from college. So she is going to be a teacher. It's also a particular pleasure to be here because of the long partnership the Corporation for National and Community Service has had with GW. It goes all the way back to 1994 and continues today most robustly under the leadership of President Knapp. You know, we all know and remember where we were that dark day 10 years ago and how our country came together in ways that many thought impossible to support the nation and our fellow citizens. What a lot of people may not realize that it was that incredible spirit that drove the families and friends of those who lost loved ones on 9/11 to become the driving forces in creating the 9/11 anniversary as a day not only of memory, but also of service. They believed and continue to believe that engaging in service is the most meaningful and respectful way to honor those who died and to create a legacy of compassion and action to help meet the challenges we face today. In 2009, Congress designated September 11th as a National Day of Service and Remembrance and charged the Corporation for National and Community Service with leading the effort across the country. Now, in case you haven't heard of us, we are a federal agency that administers AmeriCorps and VISTA and many other programs that engage millions of Americans in service to tackle community needs. And we partner with and fund other programs around the nation, Teach for America, Habitat for Humanity, City Year, and many more, to try to drive service as a core part of the solution to meeting our nation's needs. The corporation is also a little bit unusual in that although it's a federal agency, it has an appointed bipartisan board of directors. And in this day and age, as you know, that term is less often used than it need be used. But we are so proud of how far this day of service has come in just a couple of years. This weekend, all across the nation, hundreds of thousands of volunteers are serving in honors of those who died and those who rose up to help. And large numbers of them are college students. Yesterday, scores of people gathered just up the road in Fort Meade, Maryland for a Kaboom playground build that the Secretary of Defense participated in. Others of us were at West Elementary School here in the district in a project to support homeless veterans, mostly manned by White House staff, led by Chief of Staff Bill Daley. And still thousands of others are serving yet again today across the country. Now, many of you were only 9 or 10 years old when the attacks took place. And just as the nation was not looking for war on that clear, cool morning, the 9/11 generation, as you have become known, did not ask to grow up in the face of that terrorist attack or 2 wars and all the challenges they have wrought. Yet your generation has stepped up in ways that were unimaginable, serving the nation at home and abroad through the military, the Peace Corps, AmeriCorps, Teach for America, Habitat for Humanity, and so many other programs. In fact, applications for national service programs have skyrocketed over the last 6 or 8 years. Your lives may have been marked by a national tragedy, but through our shared experience, you have chosen to learn and act on the lessons of unity and compassion and commitment that came out of that. So we are really proud of you and what you're doing for shaping not just a better today, but a better tomorrow for all of us. And we're particularly proud when institutions of higher learning like George Washington University embrace this as this university has. Your freshman day of service today is the largest collegiate 9/11 day of service in the nation. The idea for this day of service came straight from the top, from the man who I have the pleasure of introducing, your president, Stephen Knapp. Indeed, as George Washington students, you know that you have an exceptional educational opportunity ahead of you. But I also hope you realize that thanks to President Knapp's leadership and the commitment of the GW community, you have an equally extraordinary opportunity to have a real impact on people of all ages throughout the Washington area. Take advantage of that opportunity. Get involved. Know that your engagement in service and volunteerism is a vital part of the solution to so many of the challenges we face, from education and literacy to health, the environment, caring for our veterans, and so much more. And know, too, that your civic engagement will be as enriching for you as it is for those you serve. In that spirit, before President Knapp comes up, let me just express the corporation's and the administration's deep appreciation for his outstanding leadership here at GW and for his commitment to fostering a community of service, civic engagement, and supporting student veterans. This Freshman Day of Service is a model we would love to see followed on every college campus in America. As students, you really are fortunate to have a president who has such an acute sense of civic responsibility and who puts that belief and sense into practice on and off campus. So welcome back to the podium, President Stephen Knapp.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Chancellor Henderson, Mr. Soloway, Provost Lerman, President Richardson, it's an honor to join you in launching our Freshman Day of Service, and it's now my special privilege to introduce our next speaker, Eboo Patel. Dr. Patel is the founder and president of Interfaith Youth Core, an interfaith youth movement that uses service as a bridge to unite those of different faiths and moral traditions. He is the writer of the Faith Divide blog for the Washington Post and a frequent contributor to USA Today and the Huffington Post on interfaith issues. He's spoken at the Clinton Global Initiative and the Nobel Peace Prize Forum, as well as at college and university campuses across the country. He also serves on the Religious Advisory Council of the Council on Foreign Relations. And in 2009, he was named a member of President Obama's Advisory Council on Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Eboo Patel.
There are very few individuals in history who both led a successful revolution and laid the foundation for a nation. You're at a university named after one of them. I thought about George Washington when I was at the airport this weekend, watching women in Muslim headscarves brave the stares and scowls of some of their fellow Americans on an anniversary no one will ever forget. I wonder if a similar feeling prompted Moses Sessions, the leader of the Hebrew congregation of Newport, Rhode Island, to write President Washington shortly after he assumed the presidency. It was a letter essentially asking whether Sessions and his people, Jews, would be safe in this new nation, or if they would be hounded and hated, blamed for crimes they did not commit. In his response, Washington put on paper words that I think still define the essence of this nation. Quote, "The government of the United States gives to bigotry no sanction, to persecution no assistance, requires only that they who live under its protection should demean themselves as good citizens." In this new nation, the new president was saying, people would have their identities respected, their freedoms protected, their safety secured. They would be encouraged to cultivate good relationships with fellow citizens from other backgrounds, no matter the tensions and conflicts that might have existed in the lands from which they came, and they would be invited and expected to serve. Washington came to his views through both principle and practical experience. As the leader of the Continental Army, the first truly American national institution, Washington recognized he was going to need the service of all communities in this country. Back then, it was a common anti-Catholic practice to burn the Pope in effigy, including in the army. Washington banned it and other insults to Catholics and wrote, at such a juncture and in such circumstances, to be insulting their religion is so monstrous as not to be suffered or excused. When seeking a carpenter and a bricklayer for his Mount Vernon estate, Washington wrote, if they are good workmen, they may be of Asia, Africa, or Europe. They may be Muslims, Jews, or Christians of any sects, or they may be atheists. What mattered is what they could build. Respect, relationship, service. Those are the three pillars of pluralism in a diverse democracy. Washington knew well that some of the earliest settlers in America were groups fleeing the religious prejudices, persecutions, and conflicts of elsewhere. He wanted this nation to stand for something different. Not the old idea that we are better apart, but the high hope that people from the four corners of the earth could come together to build even a nation. to show the world that humanity is better together. In a too seldom read sermon called Remaining Awake Through a Great Revolution, Martin Luther King Jr. summarizes the story of Rip Van Winkle. He mentions the details you and I already know. Old man goes up a mountain, grows a long beard, falls asleep, wakes up, comes down the mountain. But King pauses on one detail we might have overlooked. When Rip Van Winkle went up the mountain, he passed an inn with a picture of King George III, the English monarch. When Rip Van Winkle came down the mountain, the inn was still there, but the picture had changed. It was George Washington. America had gone from living under a dictatorship to living in a democracy. Now, what strikes me about King's use of George Washington as a symbol of democracy is that Martin Luther King Jr.'s great-great-grandparents could well have been owned by our first president. The man who welcomed Jews and Catholics into the nation, the man who spoke of a government that gave bigotry no sanction, persecution no assistance, the namesake of this university, he was a slaveholder. So how do we make sense of that? What judgments shall we pass on the mother of all contradictions? What meaning shall we assign? Those are the subjects of all-night conversations and 25-page term papers, which is to say that these are the types of questions that ought to be at the center of a university education. Universities speak a great deal of tradition, of initiating a new group of scholars into the great conversation of the human condition, introducing them to the best that humankind has thought and felt and done for generations, stretching back millennia. But that is not the only direction universities face, or in my view, the most important. Universities might look to the past, but the direction they face is forward. Universities speak a great deal of history, but really, they are about the future, which is to say, they are about you, what you do, what you believe, what you build now and in decades to come. Martin Luther King Jr. was a terrific student. He entered Morehouse at 16. He got a PhD from Boston University in his mid-20s. But what strikes me most about King is not the term papers or even the dissertations he wrote. It's the actions he took. After 380 days of walking to work, of experiencing death threats and firebombs during the Montgomery bus boycott, and when it was finally over, King did not look back. He looked forward. Now is the time for redemption, he said. Now is the time for reconciliation. Now is the time to build the beloved community. That's George Washington, updated. So here's my message to you. Be a part of the conversation, but more importantly, be part of the action. Don't forget, the people who talk for a living, they talk about the people who act. And for sure, ask big questions, but also make deep commitments to your faith or philosophy, to the nation and the world, to the earth and each other. Debate the meaning of the events of past decades and centuries, but above all, shape the arc of the future. When you dream, you are part of the future. When you serve, you are part of the future. When you build bridges that show we are better together, you are building the future. I envy you. You are at the doorstep of possibility. I know something of the pressure you are under. Our communities, our nation, our world, they're hurting. They have high hopes for you. They need your conversations and your actions, your questions and your commitments, your burning sense of justice, your deep well of joy, your ability to make of the painful memories of the past the materials of a more humane future. Don't back away from this responsibility, from these opportunities. Don't be shy. Travel well. Keep the words of the poet in your back pocket. Pull them out when you need them, no matter what you've been through, no matter what you're into, no matter what you see when you look outside your window. Brown grass or green grass, picket fence or barbed wire, you just raise your arms higher. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Mr. Patel. And thank you to all our speakers today. I don't think truer words could have been spoken, and I hope all of you were listening. They shared a great deal of wisdom and vision today. You'll have an opportunity to reflect on this and on your day of service later today at the closing dinner when you return to the Smith Center right here. After the dinner, I invite you all to join us on a procession that leads from here to the 9/11 Remembrance Vigil in University Yard at 6:30 p.m. tonight. In just a few moments, I'll begin dismissing you each by your service sites, but I want to first make sure everybody rises for the academic recession, and we'll close up the show.